You're watching Real Simple News on Damn it, I can't fucking do it today. You're watching Real Simple News with Cale McCullough on Tuesday, July 28th. In today's top RSS news stories, 3 black militia members were shot in a friendly fire incident in Louisville, Kentucky. A BLM extremist activist or protester was open carrying in Austin when protesters detained a vehicle, and then the person in the vehicle pulled out a gun, and the person with the assault rifle, the BLM extremist, then soon realized after shooting at the person that the other person was a better shot. And a 60-year-old black Trump supporter was murdered in Milwaukee in a drive-by shooting in broad daylight. In our first news story of the day, it's from NPR, and I want to take a real quick detour here to look at the top here. It says live updates, protest for racial justice. And I just want to first state that that's complete bullshit. If this was a protest for racial justice, they would be protesting against all of the black people that are murdering the black people. There's approximately 9,000 black people who are murdered by black people in the United States every single year. And so that's 38 times the number of the police or the people who are killed by police in police incidences. This is the number of people who are killed in police incidences is proportional to the number of interactions that you have with the police. So if you want to reduce the number of interactions with the police, the first thing that you have to do is you have to legalize drugs so that people don't have so many interactions with the police. And BLM is not going to do this. They're funded by the Democrats, and Democrats their voter base is white feminists, which is a racist form of feminism, hood Democrats, which are your low income city people who live in the hood and vote for Democrats. Then you have your Antifa, you've got old people, and you have ivory tower liberals. And they're not going to do that because a lot of these people rely on drug money as their primary source of income. But back to the story here. From NPR, it says, police declare riots and Portland and Seatle protest, 1 killed in Austin. Protests raged in several cities around the country on Saturday night over police brutality and systemic racism. Thousands of protesters descended in Seattle and Portland, where police in both cities declared the gatherings had become riots and made dozens of arrests. And in Austin, they said someone in a car shot and killed a protester. In Austin, shortly before 10 p.m. Saturday, downtown Austin, as hundreds were walking down a street, many with their fists raised above them, and a car turned towards protesters. Everybody backed up. Someone shouted in a video incident less than seconds later, 5 gun blasts echoed through the streets. Protesters ran streaming through, and few shots were heard. And I was one of the people who helped start the 2016 Portland anti-Trump protest, and we stopped a lot of cars. And this is the natural consequence that happens when you start stopping cars and beating people up and rioting and looting and murdering, is that people are going to carry guns with them. And 88% of the guns in the United States are owned by white people. So if you want to mess with the majority of the people, you're vastly outgunned. And you're also vastly outnumbered, too. Police said the victim, an adult male, had approached the vehicle while carrying an AK-47. The driver of the car then opened fire, hitting the man. No, that's not true. that's fake news. Got proof here. Officials believe the second round of gunshots came from someone in the crowd shooting after the car, the local ABC affiliate reported. Really? All right. Let's see. Oh, hold on. Apologize about that. Oops. Now listen to the gunshot. Listen to it. You're about to hear it. So you just heard 5 loud, echoey boom, 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 and then 3 smaller pop, pop, pop. Okay? Now, there's here is the BLM extremist who was carrying the guns. This one says undermining vert power structure. Garrett Foster was murdered at a protest last night by a vigilante. He was the only caretaker of his partner, Whitney, a quadriplegic amputee. A quadruple amputee. Garner showed up for Whitney, and he showed up for the community. So here's the guy.
They don't let us march in the streets anymore, so got to practice some of our rights.
Cool, man. Do you feel like you'll need to use it?
Nah, I think I mean, if I use it against the cops, I'm dead. And I think all the people that hate us and, you know, want to say shit to us are too big of a...
So, just a quick note. He does not look like someone who is a member of a well-trained militia. So here's what the people are saying. Here's a response from one of these wingnuts. Oh, really? really. It's a conspiracy theory. Okay, so I know that most liberals don't really know very much about guns, but here is an AK-47. This is in Nigeria. Of today's Feudalanis, I don't know what that is. Little boy is handling an AK-47. So in other countries, little kids handle these guns, right? And so here's what an AK-47 sounds like. So here's some, where are these people at? This is their, in Pakistan, they're killing a cow with an AK-47. So I want you to notice what it sounds like. So now we're going to go back to the other video. Now I want you to watch again. Listen to the shots. So it sounded like the AK-47, right? 1, 2, 3. And that sounded like what? A pistol, right? Right. So you heard boom, 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 and then pop, pop, pop. And this is why when you go to a protest, you should expect with a gun open carrying, when people are rioting and looting and murdering police officers and business owners, you should expect to be shot by the first person that has a gun who's in a situation who is afraid, because you're kind of bringing that situation upon yourself. So, it's really easy to debunk liberals because they don't. Most of it's just based off of feel-good stuff. They just want to be popular. And so this next article here from the New York Post says protester driver have an intense standoff at gunpoint in Oregon. This is in Eugene, Oregon. This is in my hometown. And somehow I didn't know about this event until it was like probably right about the time when this was happening. And then I was driving around with my cameras looking for them. But then I thought it was just too late and they would have gone home. But the article says a demonstrator and a motorist engaged in an intense gunpoint standoff in Eugene, Oregon street video of the run-in shows. The confrontation unfolded during a march last weekend when a driver ordered protesters to clear the intersection he was attempting to navigate, according to student journalists who witnessed the incident. Someone in traffic apparently pulled a gun and said, "Get the F out of my way," tweeted C. Francis O'Leary, the University of Oregon's Daily Emerald. Truck guy pulled his gun out. BLM protester ran up in with their own gun and said, "Drop it," added the O'Leary in another message, along with 4 of the second videos of the pair training their weapons on each other. The video live streamed on Twitch by user Rain238. It was Rain, RAYNE 238, captured more of the encounter and events leading up to it. So let's watch it. Oops, wrong. Oops. Yeah, people say stuff like this to me too, man. They want to kill me personally. We have a better video of it. It's the end of it. I had a better video. Do we have the other video of the standoff between the two? I had the video. Here is the video of the... Woo! Boy, that's loud, huh? I'm kind of glad I wasn't there because I used to throw huge raves in Eugene back in the day, and like thousands of people know me, and people are threatening me. First off, thousands of people know where my house is because they used to come to my house, and people are saying that I am a part of the far right or something, which is crazy because if you actually watch my videos, I definitely denounce authoritarianism, mass murder, genocide, and hatred against other groups of people. But what these people don't understand is that the definition of a hate group is a group of people that uses hatred, violence, and hostility towards another group of people. And the key component here is that that you engage in violence against them. And just because a group doesn't like another person does not make them a hate group. The key determining factor of the hate group is the violence that's being used from one group against the other group. So the people perpetrating the violence here at these protests are typically from the left against the right. The reason why Nazis killed so many people, which they didn't kill anywhere near as many people as Stalin did. Stalin actually had Hitler whooped on the number of people he killed. The reason why they started killing people is because they hated the group of people enough that they wanted to kill them. And then they learned how to kill. So they watched public executions and they trained on how to kill. And then Stalin taught Hitler how to use the poor people to kill the 1% in what is called dialectic materialism, which is a Marxist principle that the left is using. And then after they have been taught how to kill, then they turned into genocidal maniacs. They didn't start out this way. In fact, actually, I'm not trying to support Nazism here. I'm condemning it first, but they were actually trying to make the world a better place. It is true. Nazis were actually trying to make the world a better place. And the thing is that they thought that the feudalism was supplanted by capitalism. They thought that the 19th century was the century of capitalism, and that the 20th century would be the century of social ownership. Capitalism is private ownership, socialism, community ownership. So people think that Nazism is not socialism, but this is actually indeed wrong, because the basis of socialism is that there is social ownership. Hence the title National Socialism, where that means that the government owns the businesses, but you can own private property. And this closely mirrors the Chinese government structure, where they have millions of Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps. They have hundreds of millions of impoverished Chinese out in the countryside. They have ultra-rich Chinese. They have an authoritarian government run by a dictator who looks almost exactly like Winnie the Pooh. I mean, it's kind of freaky. For real. And he gets really upset if you if you criticize how much he looks like Winnie the Pooh. Hey man, what the hell's wrong with Winnie the Pooh? What is wrong with Winnie the Pooh? But they also are trying to be the world's #1 superpower. And they bias things towards Chinese. They want Chinese people to be the #1 superpower. And this is the textbook definition of ethno-nationalism and ultra ethno-nationalism, which is what Adolf Hitler engaged in. And so let's see this next one here. Is this the Austin one? What was on there? Sorry. Out of our slide. I never claimed to be super professional or have money. There's no money backing this show other than my tax refund and other investments I've made. So here's in that Eugene protest. I think that's by the courthouse. Here's a gunshot. Somebody shot a gunshot into the air. So in this next story from the Daily Mail, it says Black Trump supporter 60 is shot dead in Milwaukee. Detectives are investigating political motives after beloved community activist was gunned down in a drive-by. Bernell Trammell, 60, was gunned down in a drive-by shooting on Thursday. He was known for his signs that said "Vote Trump 2020" and recited Bible verses. Cops has not yet landed on a motive, but aren't discontinuing his links to the GOP. Residents in the neighborhood say he wasn't afraid to express his political views. The Republican Party has called for a federal investigation into the slaying. Chairman Andrew Hitt said no American should fear their political safety because of where they live and their political affiliation. And I actually do fear for my safety. Every single night I have to make sure that my house is locked up and safe and that my cameras are on and running, because there are a number of people that wish to kill me here in Eugene because they think that I am far right, because they think it's because of all this brainwashing from China on Wikipedia and through the universities. There's a lot of Chinese influence that most people are just completely, absolutely 100% clueless about, that they are conducting cyber warfare operations in the United States against American civilians, and they have used cyber warfare in order to deliver chemical agents to American citizens in the form of fentanyl that they are delivering through narcotics networks that through the cartels. And the Democrats are, in fact, assisting these people by preventing us from enforcing our immigration policies, because 50% of narcotics convictions in federal courts are of Latinos, and 30% of them are from illegal immigrants. And Latinos make up about 15% of the U.S. So there's only one really good explanation for that, and that's because the illegal immigrants are not allowed to work in the United States, and they are engaging in illegal narcotics trafficking. Of course, this is not every illegal immigrant. Of course not. But there are a lot of them that are engaging in this, and 56% of illegal immigrants are from Mexico. And when you look at the convictions, this also closely mirrors the percent of the convictions of the illegal immigrants. So therefore, we must conclude that the illegal immigrants are not completely innocent, that they are engaging in narcotics trafficking to bring in heroin and methamphetamines and fentanyl. And this is in cooperation with China, because most of the fentanyl is coming from China. And the Democrats are not doing anything about it, and thus they are guilty. So let's see, let's look at Garrett. Sorry, what was his name again? Sorry, my foot hurts because I got this. Let me move this carpet. like not even, and it's hurting my leg really bad. So, what was his name? Bernell. So Bernell, I feel for this man because these people on the internet, on Facebook, they actually want me dead because they think I'm far right. But the truth of the matter is that I'm a small government, small C conservative, and I am not going to hold permanent allegiance to anyone or any party. This is why I am a small C conservative. But to them, they think that Republicans are racist. And it's because people weren't paying attention to politics until Trump came into office. And then all of a sudden, everybody started paying attention. And then we got a bunch of misinformation. And as it turns out, the Democrats were the ones that owned slaves, started the KKK, opposed women's suffrage, and passed the 1994 crime bill that started the prison industrial complex, and that caused all the, actually it didn't cause all the police brutality. That's not true. Actually, police brutality went down. After the war on drugs started, police brutality literally went down by like, the numbers got cut in over 50% decrease in the number of killings of black people, and the number of killings of everyone actually went down. So this next article here from GOP USA says members of Black Militia Group NFCA hit by friendly fire during Louisville protest. I don't think these people are protesting because look, this is what's going on with these people. They've been up on the internet and they get into internet troll wars with people where they get really pissed off and they hate these racist people so bad. And so this has been a showdown with these people. So I watched videos of these people shooting in gun ranges, and they were in a smaller city. Location is key. Demographics is key. So the article says 3 members of the black-led pro-gun organization Not Effing Around Coalition were struck by friendly fire in Louisville, Kentucky on Saturday while protesting the police shooting of Breonna Taylor. Yeah, that whole thing turned out to be a whole bunch of bunk fake news. We're going to address shots were fired around 1 p.m. in Louisville, Baxter Park, police said. Police attributed the shots to accidental discharge. All 3 victims managed to survive with non-life-threatening injuries. And it's because the people are walking around with the triggers on the guns, and it's because they're not a very well-trained militia. So, we're not going to give these guys breath. Here's them, a video of them. We've got to avoid YouTube videos. Ooh. I mean, I love seeing Americans with guns. These people don't have the best intentions when they get together. Somebody who's typically open carrying is doing so because they love the Constitution of the United States and they think that it is our right to bear arms. But these people in particular they're a militia because they're forming a militia because they feel like they need to protect themselves from another group of people, and they wish to do harm to that group of people. This is not legal for you to do that. That is not a well-regulated militia. That is actually a terrorist group. If you're out there with guns in the street, these people are looking for a fight. We all just wish y'all would just fall the fuck back asleep and stop bothering us. So, what exactly is the message here? If they don't get what they want, they're going to burn this mother effer down. That's the message. Why is it that I should support these people? Oh, there was that slide that was missing earlier. Dang it. So, Breonna Taylor. Yeah, the narcotics trafficker that had guns. This article from the Courier Journal says police interview says Breonna Taylor's home was a, quote, soft target and, quote, suspects already located. So the story behind Breonna Taylor is that the police did a no-knock drug raid. And I'm totally for the legalization of drugs. I think that it's caused a disparate effect on minority communities and that it was racist to the core from the start and that it doesn't really have any sort of benefit for society and that there are medical benefits for marijuana, obviously. I live in Oregon where it's legal and nobody's demanding that pot be illegal. So, what does this article say? It says Louisville police officers serving a no-knock search warrant. See, this is what got them. They said they were serving the no-knock search warrant. So you would assume that they did a no-knock, right? They were serving at Breonna Taylor's apartment the night she died. We're told. Here, let me get off of this thing. Sorry. Had a red box in my way. There was told that her home was a soft target with minimal threats, and that the 26-year-old emergency room technician was likely home alone. New release police interviews reveal. Quote, they said they didn't believe that she had children or animals, but they weren't sure. Sergeant Jonathan Mattingly told investigators that in a recorded interview that almost 2 weeks after police fatally shot Taylor in her apartment, quote, she said she would be there alone because they knew that their target was there, end quote. Police surveillance conducted earlier in the evening before officers served the arrest warrant, just the warrant, after midnight on March 13th showed the likely activity in the apartment, Matling said. The only light was the glow in the TV in her bedroom. Mattingly's comments that the police knew where her target was appeared to be a reference to Jamarcus Glover, one of the main suspects in the larger narcotics investigation. The same night Taylor was killed, Glover, 30, was arrested after police searched his Elliott Avenue house on a separate warrant. Sam Aguilar and Lonila Baker, attorneys for the Taylor family, have insisted for months that the police did not need to forcibly enter Taylor's apartment because they knew Grover would be there alone. Mainly comments echo that. Grover and Taylor had dated for years and maintained a passive friendship, according to Angler. Mattingly said police believe that Taylor may have held drugs and money for Glover. So she's not just some EMT that's like innocent here. In fact, I have known nurses that get absolutely blasted on drugs. Robert Eggert, the attorney for Taylor's boyfriend, Keith Walker, provided copies for the full Public Integrity Unit's interviews with Mattingly and Walker to the Courier Journal before being reported by NBC News on Thursday morning. Only parts of the recordings have been publicly released. Commonwealth Attorney Tom Wine had played pieces of Walker and Mattingly's interviews on May 22nd news conference, but Louisville police had still refused to release their full recordings. Wine provided the recordings to Eggert. In a statement Thursday evening, Aguilar Baker and Florida-based attorney Ben Crump said in a joint statement that the recorded statement suggested there had been a conspiracy to cover up Breonna killing since day one. Enough is enough, attorney wrote. It's time for officers involved in that tragic night to be terminated for their positions to be charged with the murder of Breonna Taylor. She was probably there alone. On March 25th, 12 days after Taylor's death, police department's public integrity unit interviewed Mattingly for over 40 minutes. Mattingly is one of the 3 officers who shot weapons at Taylor's apartment, along with officers Miles Cosgrove and Brett Hakinson. Hakinson has since been fired, while Mattingly's Cosgrove remained in administrative resignment. Quote, do you remember the name of the target on the search warrant? And quote, the investigator asked the sergeant. Quote, no, not offhand. Mattingly said, we didn't write it. He didn't do any of the investigation. We did none of the backgrounds, end quote. In fact, Detective Joshua Janes secured 5 no-knock search warrants for the larger narcotics investigation on March 12th, one of Taylor's apartments, 3 for neighboring houses in Elliott Avenue, and 1 on the West Muhammad Ali Boulevard. Janes since has been placed on administrative reassignment pending results of the investigation into how the warrants were obtained. Police executed those warrants after midnight. They put it down at the bottom. It's infuriating that they put this down at the bottom. Police executed 4 of those warrants after midnight on March 13th. Courts recorded court's records show. 5th for the house of Muhammad on Abu Boulevard was not executed for reasons not known to the public. Quote, it was a heavy manpower operation. They needed to, they just needed bodies, end quote. Mattingly said the police department repeatedly knocked to announce their presence. Wasn't a no-knock search. He said they were unsure why the warrant was requested as a no-knock, but he then was told to knock and announce. Quote, our intent was to give her plenty of time to come to the door because they said that she was probably there alone, Mattingly said. Told investigators they wanted to more than enough time for the average person or disabled person to get to the door before deciding to force entry. When police entered, Walker fired 1 shot, which was described as a warning because he thought intruders had broken in, and struck Mattingly in the leg. Mattingly, Cosgrove, and Hickinson returned fire. Taylor was shot 5 times and died in the hallway. And so the reason why Breonna Taylor died, and I might add she was a very beautiful woman. The reason why she died was because of this messed up war on drugs. That was because of the racist people, and the racist people weren't the Republicans. The Republicans, look, Republicans and individual Republicans and individual Democrats both hate drugs. In fact, people who are of other differing parties also hate drugs. It's not a very uncommon thing for that to happen. In order for them to have done the war on drugs, they needed the Democrats to be a part of it. So you can't blame the war on drugs because the Democrats passed the 1994 crime bill that created the prison industrial complex. So you cannot say that the Democrats are innocent. This next article from NPR says Portland protesters file suit against Trump administration over federal response. These guys are crazy, man. I really hope that they don't break into my house and trash my studio or try to kill me or brutalize me really bad, put me in a wheelchair or make it so that my body hurts all the time, because these scum Tifa and white feminists and white knights running in to protect them and Xena social justice warriors are straight up cray. Xena social justice warrior will blah! Dude, she'll wail on you, dude. She's a crazy bitch, bro. She's violent. The article says protesters, including members of Walls of Moms and Don't Shoot Portland, all suing the Trump administration over what they describe as violence, intimidation, intimidating federal response to a nightly demonstrations against systemic racism and police brutality. And so what kind of police brutality are they talking about that they're protesting against? They're protesting against police brutality in Democrat-run cities from laws that are from Democrats. And Portland, Oregon does not have a lot of police shootings. In fact, you can go through the police shootings and you can see in the record of police shootings in Eugene or in Portland that there are a number of mentally ill people on that list. And they are tragedies. No doubt they're tragedies. But they're just that. They're an accident. It was something tragic that happened. And murders and homicides, accidental deaths happen to both police officers and non-police officers. And so there's 330 million. No, there's 320 million people in the United States. 320 million people. So when you have that many people, you're going to end up with some number of people per year in each city that are going to get killed by the police officers doing crazy, stupid stuff that usually just Americans do. But in other countries, it's even more crazy, messed up stuff. Even when you're like Russia, bro, like Russia, those people are hard, bro. Like they would break me. I am not a machine. Continuing the article, it says the group and organizations and individuals led a 9-count complaint on Monday against the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, its leaders, and several other federal agencies, whom they accuse of violating protesters' constitutionally protected freedoms of speech, freedom from unreasonable seizures, right to due process, and by deploying federal agents to unlawfully squash plaintiffs' speech and end their protests. So let me get this straight. BLM hates Donald Trump. I helped start the 2016 Portland anti-Trump protest. We were definitely doing that because of Donald Trump. You can't argue with that because it's the 2016 Portland anti-Trump protest. And then it was what? It turned into a BLM protest. And then the BLM people started sanctioning violence. Black people have some of the highest violence rates in the entire country and some of the highest violence rates in the world, in the first world. You know, there's places in the third world countries where it's worse. But out of the civilized world, we have the most gun homicides because we have the most guns. So, the city has also, too, been declaring these race riots as what they are, which are riots. They're not about systemic racism. If it was about systemic racism, we would be ending the war on drugs, and we would be not preventing. We would prevent schools from not allowing you into programs because of a GPA that falls under a certain above a certain threshold. And so black people have in the United States, African Americans have some of the lowest GPAs out of all of the races in the United States. So when people don't hire you because your grades suck, it's not systemic racism. It's called a meritocracy. That is not systemic racism. Systemic racism is hatred and discrimination against another race of people. So when you have these race riots where you're murdering police officers, looting and businesses, murdering white business owners, terrorizing people at their homes, you end up with a situation where the federal use of force is completely justified at that point in time because you're murdering people, which is a federal crime. So if it's a federal crime, then the federal government can step in. The federal government has in a federal courtroom, they can enforce state laws. They do have the ability to enforce state laws. But there are also a lot of other laws that govern these protests because it is going on interstate. So here in this video from Mike Baker, says, I've shifted up to Seattle today to follow a large demonstration that's in solidarity with Portland. I estimate a crowd of 2,000 people already. This is them burning down a youth detention center in Seattle. In this next article from the Daily Mail, it says Seattle police show photographs of their burns and wounds while releasing footage of protesters throwing explosives and wooden planks at officers as 59 cops were injured on Saturday. I want you to take note of this whole explosive things. I don't know if you've ever heard of an organization called the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. It's a federal agency, and if you're using explosives, they can come in and they can shut you down, bro. It says Seattle police have released body cam footage. Let's just watch it. This is a blah. Here's the body cam footage of them throwing explosives at police officers. Okay, and so I think what they're doing is they're putting like 4 big fireworks together. Yeah, feds have you throw explosives at them, they have a right to use tear gas against you. Here's images of police department also shared series of gruesome photos showing the injuries of officers sustained in scuffles at protest, burns and abrasions from the explosives. So that is very much so federally illegal. Once you start committing federal crimes and the federal police agencies have jurisdiction, then you cannot argue that they are enforcing federal laws. This video says hundreds marched in Seattle as explosions ring out behind them. Boring. Anything else interesting? There's a cop pepper spraying somebody. Let's move on to the next one. Oops. Oopsies. Gotta recenter that thing. Not perfect, but the air mouses are cool. So here's a video of them trying to break in, or they're setting fire to the Portland federal courthouse. In this video, they're breaking down boards so that they could throw burning stuff inside to set it on fire. Here they are setting the courthouse on fire. So it's a federal courthouse. This is federal property. This is thus they have jurisdiction over this. What happened to my audio again? Sorry. My audio keeps going out. Having technical issues. Hey, if you want to make a donation to the show, you can, if you like the content, to buy us better equipment that is more stable. Because my equipment is good, but it is not stable. That is the problem. It was cheap. Here's them rioters carrying shields rush back to the Portland Federal Courthouse after law enforcement return inside. Rioters cheer and celebrate, claiming to have won a victory. Because to them, these people, this is all a battle. It's dielectric materialism. It's a epic struggle between the lower class and the upper class, or the bourgeoisie. Woo. I don't know about you, man. They look like Nazis to me. Here's another video from Andy No. Federal officer hit in the face with a projectile from rioters. Far left accounts and Antifa have been celebrating this video. I'm not. Dude, violence against police officers is not acceptable in any sort of way. This next article from the Oregonian says Portland issues maximum fine on feds for unpermitted fence outside of the courthouse. Bill is $192,000 in counting for an unpermitted fence. So I'm not sure whether or not you're aware of this, but police can commandeer your property if it's in the public interest. So, but, you know, why do they have the fence? Here's another tweet from Andy No. Says, rioters hiding behind shields shine powerful lasers at federal officers to blind them. Antifa are organized into many units who carry out specific tasks. Those who aren't fighting act as barriers, cop watchers, resuppliers, and medics, according to... this was recorded on the 25th. And here's video of them trying to rip the fence down. So obviously, the city of Portland is on the... Sorry, I should leave this going. The city of Portland's on the side of the rioters, obviously. It's quite obvious that the Democrats... This is a Democrat riot. It's not a BLM riot. This is a Democrat riot. There's another video of them trying to tear the fence down using multiple ropes. Why are these people doing this stuff? I mean, this stuff's crazy. Like in Portland, Oregon, there's hardly any black people. There's like, I forget how many black people per year are killed by police in Oregon, but it's really not that many people. There's just a very big country. And when you start to add them up, you know, it starts to look like there's a lot of police brutality, but in reality, the population is rising. This next article from BuzzFeed says police say the umbrella man at George Floyd race riots was a white supremacist trying to incite violence. Minneapolis investigators said the man was a member of the Hells Angels bike gang who started the violence, which is not a white supremacist bike gang. That's absolutely not. That's not true. He was a member of the Aryan... Let's just read it. Minneapolis investigators say a masked umbrella-carrying man who was filmed in a viral video smashing windows during protest in the city in late May against the... it says police killing of George Floyd, but George Floyd had a lethal dose of meth in his system, a lethal dose of fentanyl, and he tested positive for COVID. So going by the way that they're doing the COVID deaths is that if you have COVID in your system, they just count you as being a COVID death. George Floyd is technically a COVID death by the way they count the body count. In my observations from watching the video and analyzing it over and over and over again, it looks like the dude OD'd on fentanyl. So it's moving on in the article, it says, in an affidavit filed in state court on Monday as part of an application for a search warrant and seen by BuzzFeed News, an arson investigator with Minneapolis Police Department identified the man as 32-year-old member of the Hells Angel biker gang who is intended on inciting violence at the peaceful demonstration, bro, you crazy. The news of his identity and search warrant affidavit was first reported by Star Tribune on Tuesday. The man's identity drew widespread speculation after he was filmed on May 27th slowly and methodically smashing windows out of an AutoZone in Minneapolis, where protests erupted following the May 25th death of Floyd in police custody. And so what the leftists are saying is like, oh, see, it was white supremacists that were doing this. See, we got you. It's the far right. Like, there's only one problem with that. This was just one AutoZone. The leftists were the ones who did the rest of the rioting and looting. Thus, it does not functionally matter whether or not it was the far right or the far left that did it, because the thing that actually matters is the fact that it was actually that so much rioting and looting happened. So let's watch the video of this dude who is obviously cold, calculating, and methodical. This is the problem with these Democrat race riots, are that they are easy to exploit by hostile foreign actors. Please note that there is a black person there trying to stop them because black people live in this neighborhood and they don't want you to burn their neighborhood down. Please, thank you very much. Whew. By how slow he is walking, he seems like a scary dude. There was speculation that there was all kinds of people that were starting these race riots, but it was definitely Democrat race riots. You can't deny the groups of people rioting were Democrats and not Republicans. But opportunivores will seek, predators will come out at any given situation and they will exploit the situation and make it turn horrible. So who are these people? Here in this next tweet from Andy No, it says Seattle area Google engineer Zachary Ames Trudeau was arrested at the Antifa riot in Portland, Oregon. The 32-year-old was charged with assault, attempting to escape, resisting arrest, and more. He was quickly released. Portland riots, Black Lives Matter. So, it's big tech. You see, okay, so I'm a software engineer. I'm a software and computer engineer. I do AI-assisted learning technologies, memory augmentation technologies. I invented what might be the world's most efficient water heater that sequesters CO2 using a biomimicked lung and a swamp cooler with ice water condensate in it. It can also to extract heat out of the groundwater and stick the heat back in your house. It is actually a miraculous invention, and it's very low tech. It is very low tech. It's very simple the way that it works. In fact, it's like cheating. But so I know a lot about how douchey these tech people are because I got canceled. The reason why I'm doing this show is because I realized in 2017 that even though I had helped start the 2016 Portland anti-Trump protest, I had been a feminist my entire life, that if I started criticizing feminism, that people would burn me because I watched people do this a number of times. And so I started posting Meninist jokes on Facebook. And lo and behold, the crazy leftists started coming out. And then, the jokes I were posting were like just silly. They were absolutely nonsensical. They were like, why cannot men not be bitches and hoes? And to these people, they're like, oh, he's a misogynistic pig. I'm an imaginary misogynistic pig, an imp boogeyman from the Southern Poverty Law Center and MSNBC. In fact, I even have a van full of burqas and anti-abortion propaganda. And if you do know of any women's marches coming up, please let me know so that I can come and sell burqas and pass out pamphlets with pictures of dead baby fetuses on them that say, you are a sinner, you're going to hell. To these people, that's nuts. I mean, I'm absolutely just joking. I don't have a van full of burqas. But if you do actually contact me and get a hold of me, I will actually get a van full of burqas and come to a women's march to give out anti-abortion propaganda. But from my experience in the tech industry, I learned that the tech industry has been radicalized. They fired everybody that they think is a misogynist or a sexist or a racist. And what they're trying, their goal is they want to replace as many people with H-1B visas as they can. So the harsher they are on the white males, the more people they are going to be required to bring in from out of the country. Or so they think. It doesn't really work out exactly the way they think it's going to work out. But they really don't like people like me. I discovered this very quickly. On Twitter, discussing feminism with these people, they are angry. They hate people that they view as patriarchal because they think that's like Nazi, and like they're rich white women. They're like some of the richest people in the world, these rich white women, and they think they're underpaid. And so they think that I am the one that's oppressing the women, and that I am the evil patriarchal scum. And so they troll me when I don't agree with everything that they say. When if you really actually look at my views on feminism, they're really actually kind of mainstream and benign. They're like pretty run-of-the-mill Republican views. But these people will turn their back on you. The only thing that you can count on these people to do is to try to fire you from your job so that they can either get a promotion so that they can get your job if you're higher up, or that they're going to extract the life out of you by doing what is called a grind or a crunch. It's mostly called a crunch. And you're doing the grind when you crunch. And what this is it forces you to work 16 hours plus a day, maybe 20 hours a day for the company in order for them to push their product out on a deadline. And so this prevents people with children from working in these areas. So it biases it heavily towards the younger generations. And when you do this, it stresses them out a lot. It causes a lot of class inequality because it causes a very certain group. So they want to hire low-wage workers and exploit all of the life out of them and give them PTSD before they finally get so sick of it they never want to be an engineer anymore. And they know they have a limited amount of time that you'll work for a cheap wage before you get enough skills that you would never do that job again because you don't need to do it. But they have enough new faces that they continue to exploit people. And it's a very evil, very, very unethical practice, what they do in the engineering industry with the crunch. I personally crunch all the time because I own a AI and a green tech company and a music tech company. And so I don't mind because it's my own stuff, but for other people, it does give them PTSD and makes them want to commit suicide. And they become white knights and xenosocial justice warriors, and they want to use their privilege and their status to attack you, to take your white privilege because you are the evil, imaginary, misogynistic pig boogeyman from the Southern Poverty Law Center and MSNBC, the one that mistreats women, locks them up, rapes them, beats them, prevents them from working and from voting, and forces them to wear burqas. And they won't hire you for a job. There's no way. You're crazy if you think they'll hire you for a job, dude. Like it's not going to happen. They are in a society where they are used to firing everybody to get the best. It's a cutthroat society that they live in, and you either have to perform or you're going to get fired. You're going to get replaced with somebody who can do it for a lower price. It's all about price in this industry because manpower is by far the most expensive thing in the software engineering community. And it does actually require a lot. I'm a software engineer. I would definitely attest to the fact that it is very expensive. And the reason why they do that is partially because they actually have to do that. So don't just think they're completely evil in this. They do actually have to do this, what they're doing. But it gets abused. And then people get, when they're doing these crunches, they start getting PTSD and depression, and they start lashing out at people. And then it starts to become very angry and very, you can become suicidal when you're doing this. A lot of people just, after like one or two crunches, they never want to be an engineer ever again in their life. And they move on to something else. And you know what? That's not the worst thing in the world, actually. You can take your engineering skills and apply them to anything, and you can be a lot more wealthy than most of the engineers are. But they are not the same type of people as you. Like in Silicon Valley, it's a monoculture. Everybody is a Democrat down there. 86% of them Democrats. So not everybody, sorry. And they get very angry against people who go against the groupthink. And Nazism and communism are so evil because of the groupthink that these people engage in. And so here's and another tweet here from, what is it, Andy No. It says, William Fogerty Gibson charged with felony rioting and more. Emma Grace Haskin, 26, charged with felony rioting. This was in Eugene, Oregon, on the 25th and the 26th. I have never seen these people, but they definitely do look pretty cray. Here's some more people up here. Michael Thomas Madison, 37, was arrested in Eugene, Oregon at the Antifa riot on the 25th to 26th of July, charged with felony rioting and more. Kelly Michael Fitzgerald, 40, was arrested for felony rioting, resisting arrest, and more. Yeah, Eugene's on here. Yeah. I mean, not in the way that I want. So you have to ask yourself the question, they're doing all this for black people. I live in Oregon where there's like 1% black people. There's hardly anybody black people here. And I used to throw big raves, and I used to sell psychedelic drugs at raves. And I've been robbed a number of times. And I've had multiple home invasion robberies. And in both of the home invasion robberies, there was a black person. There was two people, and there was a black person with them on both instances. And then also, again, my house had a home invasion robbery when I was not there, and it was a black guy and a white guy, and my sister was pregnant at the time, and the white guy was really high on drugs, and he had a knife to my pregnant sister's throat, and the black guy pulled him off of her. So the black people are engaging in all kinds of violent crime. Hold on. A small portion of these people into the hip hop culture. You got to be clear. The demographic, who are the people causing the problem? It's the hood Democrats. It's the people up in the hood. They're almost all Democrats. So here's what this guy says. Where was this at? Does it say where it was at? So if it's all about Black lives, why do black people not so into it? So here's the kind of thing that they're flipping out about. This is what they're saying is so oppressive. In this next article from the Daily Mail, it says hundreds of teenagers go on a rampage at a mini golf center after they were refused refunds for faulty game machines. There was over 300 to 400 of these teenagers. And so this is the behavior that when you normalize rioting and looting and killing police officers. Oops. Wow, this is the first time I've actually seen an ad here. Sorry. We will mute their thing. I do so apologize. Hey, you know what, man? They got to make money. I ain't hating on them for having ads. It's just something that we got to do. It would have been nice to not have to deal with it, but... Can't have the show without it. So here's the incident. Not like these people are bad people. They probably are funny. But we've set a very terrible precedence where if people don't get what they want, they're going to start rioting and looting, and then it starts to come back and bite you in the ass. So in this next story from the New York Post, it says some 120 people have been said to have been killed in an attack in the Sudan Darfur region, according to the UN. More than 60 people were reported killed and nearly 60 others wounded during an armed attack. Wait, hold on. It said 120 up there, but it says 60 here. I don't know. They were reported killed and 60 others wounded during an armed attack in the village of Sudan Restive Darfur region in Saturday. The UN Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said late on Sunday. The attack in Masteria village in the West Darfur side was one of the latest series of security incidences reported over the last weekend that left several villages and houses burned, markets and shops looted, and infrastructure damaged, the UN body added to its statement. It did not cite the source of the information. And so, as you can see, this is what real oppression looks like. it looks like rioters and looters coming and destroying all your stuff and killing your family. Sound like anybody you've been seeing in the news recently? And what is this last story? Oh, that is it. That's it for today. Thank you for watching Real Simple News. I'm sorry about the problems with the... there's a couple of problems. But if you like this show, I have to do a real quick plug for funding. You can head on over to cookingwithkale.org. Real Simple News is an open source news organization, and you can find it on github.com/Real Simple News/Real Simple News, where you can find our website and you can file an issue ticket to report on news. And if you want to help contribute to the website, I am just one man. I am not wealthy. I am doing this in order to make the world a better place. And because I have been canceled and I have no other option and no one speaks for me, and if I do not speak for me, there will be no one left to speak for you. And I'm doing all of this for open source, and you can see my open source heater. And okay, don't expect too much. It's not all fancy right now. Don't expect perfect. I've been doing too much of this news show. But you can make a donation by clicking on the projects, cookingwithkale.org/projects, and you can find links to the cookbooks. I do free and open source cookbooks on my streams. Currently making WikiSpy, a tool for monitoring Wikipedia for tampering by hostile agents and political bias. And I'm using it for artificial intelligence purposes in order to compress Wikipedia into the RAM in your computer and the graphics card that you have using a neural network. And that is called the Interactive Gym Environment and Educational Kit Cookbook. It's a new one that I am adding on to here. And there's not much work done on it, but it will be able to show you a psychological profile of Wikipedia contributors so that you can see what political bias each contributor has, and it can show you then why an article is biased and show you factual errors in the article. And once we compress all of this information into a small enough area in memory, we can do a lot of other really cool artificial intelligence stuff with it, which is why I'm doing it. Other than the fact that there's a lot of Chinese Nazi Party propaganda on Wikipedia, and we're trying to root out the far-right authoritarians out of our Wikipedia, because they are trying to bring our Wikipedia into line with their Wikipedia, the Chinese Nazi Party Wikipedia, which is heavily propagandized. And so this show is open source. You can contribute. And thank you very much for watching Real Simple News with Kale McCullough on Tuesday, July 28th. And as I say every time, farewell, sayonara, aloha, peace be with you, and Godspeed in your journeys, friend.